have with us Mr. Siddharth Mittal, who is the MD and CEO of Biocon. Siddharth, welcome to the session.
Thanks, Kumar. And it's a great pleasure and honor for me to be part of today's discussion.
Thanks. Siddharth, while several sectors have been very, very negatively impacted, yours is one which hasn't seen a negative impact at an overall demand gen level. But nevertheless, it has been a crisis. And what were some of the key sort of learnings and takeaways for you at an organizational level in the last 8 to 9 months?
So, Kumar, it's been an interesting time. I think when the COVID had initially started, the focus was all on China. I mean, nobody even imagined that this pandemic would spread so rapidly to other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So our focus was, how to kind of de-risk procurement from China. I mean, today as an organization, a large part of the procurement happens from China. And when Chinese factories were shut down, we were really going around to figure out what should be our path forward. I mean, how are we going to ensure that we continue to fulfill our obligations to our patients and to our customers? But, the whole impact moved to India and other parts of the world. And when Indian government announced lockdown, that's when the real challenge started. We were definitely not prepared for a lockdown of such magnitude. And what was the first and the foremost priority for us was, safety of our employees, to ensure that they are safe when they come to work. And also, we were not ready from an infrastructure perspective. We were not ready from an IT perspective. However, being in the manufacturing of essential drugs, we were quite fortunate that the government allowed us to operate even during the first 2 phases of the lockdown, though with reduced staff. I mean, we did have some impact on logistics, manufacturing operations, but with everyone coming together, we handled the crisis very well. So we resumed our manufacturing operations, our quality function, our R&D functions, with a lot of our support staff who continued to work from home, supporting all the people who were coming to work. We obviously put all the procedures in place to sanitize the workplace regularly, to ensure people are taking all the precautions. We had multiple canteens, instead of just one single canteen, we had buses. We increased our buses so that people are, ensuring that there's social distancing. So all the necessary actions were put in place. And what I realized that people are strength of an organization. And I could have never imagined how everybody came together and handled this crisis so well. But when I look at, was there an impact? Yes, there was an impact. We did experience some delays in our projects, especially the projects where we were dependent on external vendors who were not operating in essential services. So there was a extended lockdown. A lot of migrant labor had moved back to their home states. And then we did see some impact on account of, the lockdowns. But last couple of months, when the government had unlocked and, we saw some resumption of activities, but the number of cases went up. I mean, in India, since August, September, we saw a spike in cases. In Bangalore itself, we have seen a lot of cases. A lot of our employees tested positive. Again, there was that anxiety, again, that how do you kind of manage this whole crisis? But again, being in this segment where you are kind of updated on what's happening and how to kind of manage the crisis or manage the situation when any of your employees get tested positive. We were able to proactively, in fact, able to address the situation. We were also working with the state government, the health minister, the health department to ensure that we are also participating in framing some of the policies. So the biggest learning that we have had is we have to be ready to face any unannounced challenges. I mean, no company would have ever planned a pandemic of such magnitude in their business continuity risk.
Sure.
So today, this whole pandemic has definitely made us more resilient. and showed us that we have to be ready to face such kind of challenges in the future.
Uh, you absolutely hit the nail. I mean, very few companies would have had this as part of the disaster recovery or BCP. And at an individual level, as a leader, the pandemic also has been a leveler within the corporate environment, right? So whether you're, a frontline employee or whether you're the CEO of the company, we've kind of been affected equally in the sense that we are all juggling between work-life balance. Maybe some people have better facilities at home versus others, but otherwise the sense of vulnerability, etc., has pretty much been the same. And at a personal level, as a leader, what has been the journey for you? And what are some of the learnings that you can share?
Sure, a very interesting question. But I mean, it was a great learning for me at a personal level. The whole pandemic tested me as a leader and how I handle the crisis. As a leader, I had to maintain my calm as everyone in the organization was looking up to me for guidance. The, f- the most important thing during this crisis was how do you communicate with your employees? How do you communicate with people? How do you kind of get the message of what's happening? Now, personally, we all have a very busy lives. We travel a lot. But since last 10 months, I didn't travel out of Bangalore. I mean, this was a big change. As suddenly, I had more time in hand. And this gave me an opportunity to really spend more time with our teams, understanding the operations and various aspects of business. Now, when I look at the home life, I mean, it's been also a little bit of a journey for me at the personal front. My wife and two of our maids actually got tested positive in July, and we were under quarantine for almost 20 days. So my wife is isolated in a room, my maids are hospitalized, and then I had to take care of the kids. I have two kids who are school going kids. I had to take care of my wife. I had to manage the house. I had to manage my work, and more importantly, maintain my mental balance. Though it was challenging for me initially, but it was fortunate that I was able to manage the situation. But those 20 days gave me a great opportunity to spend time, very quality time with the kids, which otherwise we were not able to do. And to understand what happens in their daily lives, how do mothers manage all the kids, the home, the office. I mean, it was like for me, I was like a 20 days managing everything. Right, it was a great learning experience. But you know, at the end of it, it showed me a lot of things. I was able to introspect that are we, you know, the whole I mean, as a leader or as a person, are you doing justice to your home? Are you really able to balance between your home, work, and travel? I mean, this travel obviously puts a lot of pressure, takes away a lot of your time from home. And I realized that work will always continue, but you have other responsibilities which are equally important. So it was a quite an awakening for me, and I really look forward that as we move into normalized world, I'm able to continue to maintain that work-life balance, but and able to spend more quality time with the family.
That's such a great thought, and I'm glad that everyone at home is fine now. On that thought about you, you mentioned about your mental build-up as well, right? Any thoughts on how you've been able to look at things like agility or mental resilience, or maybe a certain realization on their importance at an individual level as well?
Well, it's a very important part. I mean, today I can't tell you the importance of mental well-being. As an organization, we know a lot of people are working from home. In fact, people are more stressed working from home versus working from office because all the people who are working from home not only have to be on calls continuously, but there is no calendar anymore. People are working from morning till late evening. People are managing different things. People have kids at home. People have old parents at home. There are no mates coming, and that's kind of putting a lot of pressure. So one thing is for sure that today the importance of this whole mental well-being is getting more and more uh, I would say recognized. And today the organizations have to be uh, ready to face these challenges, and we have to be resilient. We have to be agile. We have to adopt, and we have to. It's not only about organizations; it's about the people, because at the end of it, it's people who makes the organization. So
Sure.
an organization will have to interfere and make sure that we go beyond the normal uh, practices of focusing on employees by also focusing on the mental well-being.
Absolutely. Siddharth, given what we've just spoken about, so one, your individual experience at a personal level, at a leadership level, and also what you've seen at an organizational level. What, very briefly, we've just come to the end of the interview, would be your expectation from the chief learning officer, from the LNOD function going forward at a strategic level? So, you know, gone are the days where we would be just looking at learning, training, leadership development on, let's say, technical aspects or domain expertise or even managerial aspects. What about managing oneself? What about, like you said, importance of being resilient and being agile. Can we build that into an organization? Things like that. What is your real sort of ask going forward?
So, I mean, we all know people are the foundation of any organization, and great people makes a great organization. So, to that extent, chief learning officer and HR heads play a very important role in building the organization. So, when I look at the focus areas for the next few years, and some of these areas are linked to the ongoing pandemic, and some of the areas are independent. But so, let me focus on a couple of important areas where I want the chief learning officer and the HR head to focus on. The first is learning itself, right? Learning is going to play a very important role in the fast changing world, especially in our industry where quality and patient safety comes first.
True.
We need to constantly train, reskill, upskill our employees, not only in the functional areas, but also other areas such as managing digital transformation, as we have to learn to exist in virtual world and embrace technology. The ways of doing business is going to change forever after the pandemic is over, and we will see more and more of learning and virtual learning for employees. So learning, upskilling, reskilling is going to be first focus area. The second is leadership development. Again, this has been a topic which has been talked about for many, many years. But again, I cannot emphasize more the role of leadership development, succession planning, building leaders of the future. I mean, while we have spoken and heard a lot about these areas, I mean, I personally have seen a very little outcome, as these initiatives start with a lot of euphorism, but somewhere lose steam. And I mean, again, especially like succession planning, and it's been an area which is probably being discussed in most boards. But when you really look at organizations, are they effectively able to address succession planning at the leadership level? So that's something that is an area of focus. I mean, we are doing a lot on this, and I definitely expect that we continue to, get an outcome which is something that the organization really looks forward to, rather than losing steam over a period of time. The third area, which I would say, again, we are focusing a lot is on performance management. Over the years, we have seen people in all organizations have got used to promotions, high ratings, double digit salary increments. But the underlying performance does not justify some of these expectations. But most organizations are forced to promote people to give those increments because there's a fear of attrition and there's then employee morale. But I personally feel we need to revamp the way we appraise our people. We have to be honest with our people. We have to work with our people to work out a career path for them basis their capabilities and skills and experience by being honest and giving them real-time feedback. So the traditional performance appraisal system on assessing people on an annualized basis with a bell curve rating resulting in promotions or those traditional increments has to change. I mean, I think we have to bring in more modern ways of uh,
True.
developing our people and doing a performance management along with ratings and promotions. I mean, in our organization now we are trying to de-link performance management and promotions, and also trying to bring in a lot of career pathing framework uh, to promote people to the next level. I mean, I've seen that in over the years, people keep getting promoted just as passage of time without really an underlying change of roles and responsibilities. And when they go to the next level, they're not able to play the role of that next level, which at the end of it starts impacting the performance. And most managers are not honest in providing that feedback to the employees. And that kind of creates an environment where an employee feels that he's not being treated fairly after a point in time. And that impacts the attrition, that impacts the morale. So
True.
performance management, in my mind, is an area where the chief learning officer and the LNOD head can play a very important role.
True. True.
The
No.
next,
Sorry. Go ahead.
the next is culture building. I think again this is an area where I want to focus a lot. The, the the chief learning officer, LNOD head, HR heads can play a very important role in an organization like ours. Shared vision, shared purpose becomes so important. And today, when I talk about some of the behavioral competencies, walk the talk. I mean, at the end of it, today, all the employees, observe what the leaders are saying, what the leaders are doing. So focus on building those competencies, building that culture, removing complacency. I mean, again, we have seen a lot of people talk. There is no action. There is no decision making at various levels. So how do you kind of remove the complacency? How do you kind of get the go-getter attitude in the people? How do you get thinking out of the box attitude? Again, there's a lot of good ideas which do not come out because people are not able to express, or some people are so busy in their day-to-day job that they are not able to get mental time to think what can we do different, how can we improve ourselves. So they are just in the rat race of doing things on a daily basis, but really not building or delivering new ideas, fresh ideas, which can really change the organization.
Thank you.
Collaboration, it's again an important area. I mean, today, as the organizations grow bigger and more employees start really looking at department first, then organization, we have to break that culture of how do you look at the organization first and kind of collaborate together. So these are some of the important areas, where we have to really move beyond just thinking about the business, about day-to-day operations, to building a culture. So, and that's the thing which will build world-class organization.
I agree.
So I would say these are the key areas where we should focus on. We have to change the way we have been managing these areas in the past. And these are very, very important to build world-class organizations.
No, I thank you so much, Siddharth. I think you've very articulately laid out, what your expectation is, and also a sort of a roadmap and a plan, which I think any CLO and CHRO can pretty much pick up and say that this is what the board and CEO's office expects from me. Thank you so much for all your views today, and it's a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you, Kumar, and it was my pleasure and honor to be part of this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.